I'm Callyn from Stella Foundation, and welcome to Child Protection Week workshop. Our theme this year for 2026 is working together to end violence against children, safeguarding tomorrow's leaders. G'day everyone. I want to start this today not as a business owner, not as a speaker, not even as the lady sitting in front of you today, but as a mother of 3 beautiful girls, 5 and under. So if you're a parent watching this, you already know what this means. It means your heart literally lives outside of your body. So it means every decision that you're going to make carries the weight of their future. It means that you'll just hope they're going to be safe, and you need them to be safe. Do you really know how to protect your child in today's world? Not from strangers, but from the things that we don't see coming. Because here's the truth, and I'm going to say it plainly. We don't rise to the level of our intentions as parents. We fall to the level of our awareness. And that is so core to the belief of what we're going to be covering today. And an awareness is exactly where we are today. So today is not about fear. It's about power. It's empowering ourselves as parents, as caregivers, teachers, even your domestic worker that takes care of your child. Knowledge is power, and preparation is power, and most importantly, community is power. And that is why Heart of Stella Foundation has joined up with Unchain Our Children to increase awareness about children in today's world. So I want to acknowledge the incredible collaboration that's made possible today, Heart of Stella in partnership with Unchain Our Children. And this is what it looks like when people stop saying someone should do something and start saying we are the someone. So we will be handing out green ribbons throughout the course of Child Protection Week, and the symbolic representation of those green ribbons is the right of every child to feel safe, the responsibility we carry as adults, but also as community members, and the commitment that we're making today to not look away. Protecting children is not a once-off conversation, it's a daily topic. Now, here's where I want to shift things. Because if you're sitting here thinking this is just another workshop where someone talks at you, then that's not happening. Today, we're just having real conversations and to discuss what is actually going on and how are we going to do something about it. And it's applicable to us as parents, as caregivers, but also applicable to this day and age with the technology driven that's out there. We have to have these uncomfortable conversations and sometimes ask the questions. Today is about asking the uncomfortable questions, the things we avoid, the things that we like to say. It won't happen to our children, or it won't happen to a child we know. Every parent thinks it won't happen to their child. Every parent, until it does. And I'm not saying that to scare you, I'm saying that to wake us up. Denial is not protection. Avoidance is not protection. Hope is not a safety plan. What protects children is awareness, open communication, boundaries, education, and adults who are brave enough to say something. As a mother, I've had to ask myself hard questions. Am I teaching my children what is safe and unsafe touch means? Am I creating an environment where they feel safe to tell me anything? And am I paying attention or am I distracted by life? Because let's be honest, we're busy, we're tired, and we are overwhelmed. But here's the truth. Your child's safety cannot compete with busyness, and this is where it's powerful. We're brought together here, experts and organizations that deal with these realities every day. And this workshop, Safeguarding Tomorrow's Leaders, is about raising informed children that are confident and empowered. A protected child becomes a strong adult, and a strong adult changes the world. So let me just say that again. The way we protect our children today determines the leaders we see tomorrow. Here's what I want you to do for this session and the next few episodes. I want you to be present, not physically present, but mentally present. I want you to put aside your distractions and discomfort and the I know this already mindset and lean in. Because something you hear today could change everything for your child. or somebody else's. Before we move forward, I want to leave you with this. You don't have to be a perfect parent to protect your child. You just have to be an informed one. Today we're choosing awareness, we're choosing action, and welcome to the Child Protection Workshop. Without further ado, I hand over to Wayne van Onselen, Director of Unchain Our Children. Wayne, would you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Callyn, thank you so much. I'm the founder managing director of Unchain Our Children. That is a child protection organization, and we combat child trafficking, gender-based violence, and other crimes that are related in the family context.
So Wayne van Onselen and I have known each other for how many years now?
I think it's going 5, almost 6, isn't it? 6. I think it's 6 years.
Yeah, it was before I even had my own babies. So now I'm a mother of 3 beautiful girls, as I said. And Wayne sort of walked the journey with Art of Stella Foundation, and they really do the hard stuff, the tough stuff, the stuff that we don't like to do. We like to do the nice things. We like to be the caregivers and the ones that come and hold the babies and love and give the support. But Wayne is the reason that they're safe. And Unchain Our Children and all their collaborators are the reason that their amazing work can be done. So, something really interesting was we were talking earlier about I am a businesswoman. I'm trying to found my brand. And I think a lot of women nowadays are working and building their brands and that, but now their brands are their face. My social media is used to connect my family and friends from afar to me and my family and my kids. So I've got them on my social media, and speaking to the experts that said, well, now you need to be the face. I thought, I work in a bit of a contentious career that maybe some disgruntled person might go look up my social media, see where my kids are. Is this something that we worry about? Is this something we'll touch on as parents?
Most definitely will be. Amy and I will be discussing that in the next episode, giving you the red flags and guiding you the way forward, what to do and what one should totally avoid.
My problem is, what if you've already done it? So once your digital footprint is out there, you can't, even if you delete your social media accounts, it's there.
Answering that question, there is a direction that we could guide and assist you to steer away from that in safeguarding your family and your children, and also yourself in the process that we will bring forward to the viewers and explain to them and guide them in that whole process.
Okay, and we know schools nowadays are asking for permission. We've got Poppy, we've got consent. May I use your picture of your child for our school brochure or to show what they're doing in the class? Will we discuss whether this is advised, not advised, or is there just maybe things that, schools and caregivers for our children just need to be aware of when implementing policy around this?
We will discuss that as well, the exposure of your children to social media. We'll discuss that platform as well, and then other preventative measures going forward, the do's and the don'ts and the red flags that we will definitely be discussing.
Will this be for our younger children, older children? What sort of age groups are we looking at? What are we?
Children per se.
Okay, we're going to blanket that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we have it from Wayne, and we're going to hand over now to Wayne to introduce Amy, and let's see what they have for us.
I'd like to introduce Amy Arnold, who is my right hand. She's a specialist investigator and a very important part of our team. Amy?
Yes, my name is Amy Arnold. I was a law enforcement officer in the United States for 14 years. I've been in South Africa for almost 8 years now, with Unchained for about 5. And trying to work on investigations of especially trafficking in persons, and also train law enforcement and government stakeholders in how to do that better.
Amy, Callyn mentioned just now that the separation of her professional business with family when it comes to social media. What are your suggestions and what's your take on that?
Yeah, at some point you're going to have to choose what is your social media for your professional life or your personal life. Now, if you already have it out there, I understand you may not want to start over. If you're like an influencer, you're a business owner, and you've got followers, it's going to be hard to start over. Delete what you can of your family. Nothing is ever permanently gone, but you can make it less easy for people to find you, to find pics. Like if you realize, oh, I shouldn't have done that, but it's out there, go ahead and delete it. Try to make it, harder for the person. And there's certain guidelines, like, we have everyone posting school photos and they're proud, and I get that, but try not to get your kid in a school uniform, or at least black it out. Limit that as much as possible. Not having your location on your phone unless you really need it to get someplace. Not checking in locations. You go on holidays, don't post while you're on the holiday. That's just telling somebody who wants to get into your house that you're not home and your house is open for robbers. So little things like that, I think, are important.
She also touched on the topic of, when it comes to schools, photographs of your children, video clips, etc., pertaining to the POPI Act, what should be allowed, what shouldn't be allowed. What caution do you think we could put out there to the parents, basically warning them the do's and the don'ts?
Yeah. Look, it's tricky because everything, advertisement, marketing, information is on social media now. So I understand the schools need to do this, but they do always ask for consent. And feel free to say no. Don't use my child. Or you can say use a picture but not a name. There's different levels. Normally you can do that. And, if a school gets inundated with people saying, no, don't use my child, then maybe it's going to help the school look at their technology policy and how they can change it. Because when enough of us come together, and this applies for parents when keeping your kids away from tech as long as possible, if enough of us are in the same boat or on the same side, then it makes it easier to stand that ground.
Yeah.
When it's just one parent saying no all the time, then it's hard not to give in. And the school or anybody else is not going to get the message. But we surround ourselves with like-minded people and we're all informed, then it's easier to fight these things.
Amy, I completely agree with that. I think what the schools should start doing is looking at AI, stock imagery, and start introducing that. And by doing that, they will expose their learners a lot less on the social media platforms.
Correct. There's lots of stock images out there. AI can get a little tricky because we don't want to send the wrong messages to kids to start using AI. I've got a lot of issues with that. But in some instances, it is very helpful. You can just say, I want a picture of school kids on the lawn, looking at whatever. You can probably even name your school, and it will generate an image.
Amy, a lot of the schools, specifically in South Africa nowadays, children are required to use the social media platforms, smartphones, laptops, in their learning process, getting their homework tasks. And it's not just limited to government schools. Government schools, fairly, but your private schools, yeah. I think there's a lot more exposure there. What would your guidance be there?
I think their heart is probably in the right place. We live in a technological world. Kids have to understand that. They have to know it. They have to work in it. It doesn't mean, though, at a young age, they need to be exposed to it that much. I love the idea of, kind of like the old school computer class. You do it for a time. You don't need to be inundated with having to have your tablet or your school laptop with you all the time. I understand it makes it easier for the teachers. I get the efficiency. I get all of that. But you don't want a child to become reliant on something like this, like on a tablet. You don't want them to think that everything has to come through that. Their brain just can't handle it either. There's a lot of research that says that delay tech as long as possible. We have play-based childhood, which we grew up with a little bit of tech, a little bit of gaming as we were young. But now this is tech-based childhood, and it's literally rewiring the children's brains. And stuff like the prefrontal cortex, that's in charge of emotional regulation and impulse control, that's all getting rewired and it's getting messed up. So I think they need to take a step back. You look at these, the Silicon Valley CEOs, the guys who make the apps, the Steve Jobs, all these people in the world, their kids go to Montessori non-tech schools in California. They know the dangers. Steve Jobs had a famous quote when the iPad first came out. Somebody was interviewing him and said, "Oh, I bet your child loves the iPad." And he immediately said, "Oh, my child doesn't have an iPad." So there are things they know, the people making this know enough to keep their own children from it. So when a school is already fully digitized, it can be hard. But as a parent, you have every right to ask specific questions and not allow your children to do things. And if the school has a problem with that, then maybe you need to pick another school. But you need to stand your ground. The school does not control your child's protection. That is up to you as the parent.
So, Amy, by saying that, do you agree then that there should be stricter control and limitation to the screen time that the children have?
Yes, like I said, there's a lot of research now. You know, the research didn't exist 20 years ago because we didn't have this problem. This issue didn't exist 20 years ago. But now people are starting to study children's brains. The anxiety and depression has risen greatly since social media especially has come out. And, you know, you just need to delay it. I think delaying it as long as possible. If they do have it, it should never be behind a closed door. Kids shouldn't have their tablets or their phones or anything in their bedrooms, in the bathroom. If my kids watch anything, it's in a main room where my husband and I are walking back and forth and we can see what's going on. They certainly shouldn't be, I think before 2 years old, there shouldn't be any screen time. I remember reading something about the brain and the lights and all that stuff. And the addiction is real and it starts early. So I would say before 2, nothing. And then you have to limit it, 30 minutes a day, whatever it is. It's okay. And technology is different than games and social media, right? Like I can have my kid be on a tablet and learn typing and learn Excel spreadsheets, stuff that is useful for their future without just letting them loose on coding or whatever it is. I know coding's a big thing. Gaming's a big thing. I actually heard on the radio a school here in Joburg who has a huge gaming, and they're very proud of their gaming, like kind of auditorium. They have like a whole shed or a whole building for gaming. And I understand it, and I think there is some learning gaming to go on, but that just doesn't need to be our focus. We are made to touch things. We are made to run. We are made to climb trees. We are made to do all these things that we're losing.
To interact physically.
Yes, we're not made of zeros and ones like a computer. I need to be able to touch you. I tell primary kids all the time, if you can't give your friend a fist bump, if you've never been able to do that, then they're not your friend.
What's your feeling on screen time with kids?
Look, they need to learn to be responsible, and every kid is different, So you might be able to have a different set of rules with one kid than another, but there need to be rules and structure in place. It needs to be limited. Like I said, not behind closed doors, not in bathrooms, not in bedrooms, out where everyone can do it. Play games with your children. There's offline games and there's online games. Look, I'm not saying we bought the really old school like Mario Brothers and all that, and our family has a lot of fun playing that game completely offline. Minecraft you can play offline. Okay, so I'll let my kids play. They do chores for screen time. My kids will come to say to me, is there anything I need to do? Because I want 45 minutes of Minecraft time. I'll give them a chore and they'll go do it. Now, other games, Roblox, for example, and I know you have a story about this, there is no offline version. So for my kids right now, that's a no-go at all. But again, you can play with them, watch them play it. But I think you have a story about Roblox, right? A case?
Yeah, the other question I wanted to ask you, but you can answer that a bit later after I've told the story, is that the supervision when it comes to gaming. Your child can be sitting in a room next door to you with an open door, but what supervision do you have?
Right.
Now, from there flowing into the story, it's an actual case that we investigated, and no names, no pectoral. So it was a 12-year-old in a gaming family. They would game every Friday evening in their separate domains on roadblocks. And after approximately 3 weeks, the mom recognized a distinct change in the child's behavior.
That usually happens.
Very distinct. She questioned out of concern what is happening, and the child was a closed book. seek professional knowledge, professional help. It then came out that the child was actually being sexually groomed in the chat room of Roadblocks.
Yep.
And the child was so scared to leave the house because of the threats that were made towards the mother by the perpetrator, that they didn't want to go to school, stopped eating, sleeping pattern was disturbed, odd behavior, as if it was almost like a conspiracy theory that had happened to this child's life, that everything's out there watching, and we don't know who, we don't know where. Cut a long story short, we intervened with law enforcement, with specialized units. Perpetrator was arrested in a different province. A 27-year-old male who was threatening and extorting this 12-year-old online while his parents were in the room next door.
Yeah. To tag on to a couple of those things, I'll answer the first thing is what I think is a good idea. If you love to play games and you want, you don't want to withhold that from your kids, if you're going to do it, I like that. Do it as a family, but together. Like my kid wanted to play Minecraft again with another child. And I said, have them come over and you guys can sit on the couch and you can each be, and they had a ball, but they were together. There's no one else in this chat room in this game. Yeah, it's transparency. Roblox, having talked about this, is the #1 gaming platform online predators are using to groom children right now. And you talked a little about extortion and sextortion. So what's happening is it's just blackmailing for nude images or videos using the grooming process. And then what's happening is kids are so scared, and sometimes they're too ashamed. Maybe they've already sent a photo out. Maybe they've already done something, and they're just terrified to tell the parents. And so what we teach parents is to have, a figurative wild card and tell your kids about it. Have a conversation today with your kids about, look, if you've ever done something that you think is so bad that you're scared to tell us because you're afraid of the consequence we're going to give you, come to us, say, Mom, Dad, Grandma, whoever, I'm laying down my wild card. I really need to talk to you about something. And when they lay that wild card down, you cannot overreact. You don't give a consequence, because that is the only way that they have that certain trust. And there's going to come a day when my kids don't want to come to me. Every teenager goes through it. Everybody who's had their child commit suicide from sextortion, they always end up saying something like, but we were so close. But he told me everything. She told me everything. It's just not the case. Have an outside safe person that your kid can go to with this wild card, and then that person can come to you, and maybe you can be calmer, but there's got to be that communication.
I agree with you completely. Don't go flipping tables.
Yeah. And sextortion, we often think this is a female problem or girl problem. Sextortion victims are over 80% male. Yeah, they're affecting, it's not just a female. If you have a daughter, if you have a boy, don't think they're tough and they don't worry about it. But the shame is often more real with the boys, and they're getting sextorted.
Amy, when it comes to monitoring apps, I know there are quite a few out there. Are there any that come to mind that...
The first one that comes to mind is the Bark app, and I'm not saying that because I think it's the best. It's just the one I know of. There's several out there, but you must remember they're just speed bumps. So someone explained to me like this: the digital arrows are flying faster than we can make digital shields. That's just the way it is. We can't, the good guys in tech are not able to keep up with all the bad that's happening. So it's a speed bump. Absolutely do it. There's some that will even turn your kid's phone off after they've been on the screen for so long. I think it's brilliant. But it really relies on you. It's on us. We cannot be lazy parents, but also know that we're the first parental generation dealing with this. So we don't have this guideline. So we're it's hard. I'm not talking down to anybody out there who's listening, who's dealt with this, or maybe think they have made a mistake. We're all figuring this out together. The best advice is to surround yourself with like-minded parents. There's a great initiative going through the U.S., and I hope it's gaining traction in other countries, but it's called Wait Until 8th. And that means 8th grade, which is about 14 years old for kids. And Everyone kind of signs this contract, and it's just a piece of paper, so it's not like legally binding. But you get a group of parents together, you sign it, and no one's giving a phone till they're in 8th grade. Then you have this group of kids who doesn't have this FOMO because they're all dealing. None of them have a phone, so they're not struggling with. But so and so has this, and so and so has this. So parental apps are good. Install them, but they can't be your only line of defense.
By doing that, the wait until 8, I think that's a whole new generation that's been created.
Yeah, and look, we create our future. If we teach our kids at a young age to do all this stuff, then of course our future is going to only include jobs that do that, right? But if we teach our kids other things, then maybe we can create a different future for them. There's a story of several high school boys who got together and just said they're not going to be on social media, and they were popular kids in their school. And they said, we're not going to do social media, we're going to come off of it. And it really changed everything for that school. So I thought it was a great initiative. They saw the importance of it, and they took their kind of privilege as being the leaders in the school, and they took this initiative, and it really changed the school.
Okay, Amy, so are kids realizing the impact of this?
I think a lot of them are. I go and do a lot of school talks, and I'll ask them which social media app is responsible for things like anxiety and depression and low self-esteem, and they say Instagram. And that's what the research shows as well. So social media apps really began to boom between 2010 and 2015. And there's a book called The Anxious Generation. There's lots of charts, lots and lots of really good research. But between those years, on the graph, anxiety and depression spike up, and there's no turning back. They also ask kids, 15 to 16-year-old, worldwide, do you feel alone at school? Do you feel alienated? And again, huge spike. And then I ask the kids, well, why do you go on social media? Well, they're bored, or they're lonely, or they're depressed. But it's feeding that cycle. You know, it's not fixing it. But again, their brains aren't developed. I don't want that to be the end-all thing, but that's where we have to come in. Yes, kids may not like the rules you put in place. Yes, are all kids ever going to always like their parents? No. Okay, we've all been through it when we were teens, but that's not our job. Our job is not to be their friend. Our job is to protect them and teach them. I always tell my kids, I'm just trying to make you a proper adult. You know, that's the word I'm using. I understand that it's easier on parents to let them go watch something or to give them this thing. I do. As a busy parent, I understand that. But there's a great book called 50 Dangerous Things You Should Let Your Children Do. And I don't know all 50 of them, but some of the top ones are things like climb a tree, build a fire, give them a safe environment. The guy was talking about how much you learn about science and combustion by just letting them build a fire in a safe place. If you have a broken appliance, let them take it apart. Okay, these are the things they should be doing, and it fills their time, and they love it. Again, if they're surrounded by other people who also don't have a phone, then there's no FOMO related to that.
Wow, that was a lot. Mind blown. I don't even know how to process that myself.
Yeah.
So how is it that children are able to process it? And as you were talking, I was thinking about my 1-year-old that knows how to unlock my phone.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe also the education is coming in as parents is being mindful of how much we're on our phone in front of our kids.
Exactly.
Our children are trying to get our attention, and we are scrolling because we are overstimulated. We're trying to relax with something that is a stimulant.
Yes, 100%. And again, we can't handle it. We get addicted. Well, how much more is a child who isn't fully developed yet going to get addicted? It's the first generation that's having to fight through this right here. Mom, trying to, and I've, we've been at fault for that. My husband and I have to have regular conversations sometimes about like, hey, we were all together and I know you were reading an article, but like, they don't know that. They just see you on your phone. That's how he gets all his information. He likes to read news and all this stuff. So I understand he's not over there gaming, but it's what my kids are seeing. My kids are still seeing a phone out when we're all in the living room. So we have to put them away. I try to leave it in the opposite end of the house during mealtime, or else I'm going to be tempted. Someone calls me, they just must wait. If they really need me, they're going to call me again, and then I'll eventually hear it.
100%. And like, I think of even just myself, we can't just be sitting on our phones and then telling our kids no phones.
Yeah.
Of course they're going to be like, well, that's a double standard.
Yep.
So I have to really think about, I do understand I am so overstimulated at the end of the day. But you're right, maybe we should have a designated box at the end of as you come in the house, put your phone, your keys, everything. Yep. And now it's family time. We eat in front of by a table, and we talk about life. I mean, I'm lucky my kids are still quite young. And some of the things that was mentioned today is, and I'm sure many parents out there are sitting thinking about it, is what are the slangs? What are the different programs and platforms kids are using? What does each emoji mean? So, for me, an eggplant is an eggplant. What can they possibly mean more than a vegetable? And it's scary because, I don't know. Is it an eggplant? Is it not an eggplant? Am I reading too much into it?
Yeah. No, there's a series of codes. And the thing is, it changes all the time. Just like apps, 1 million or 1 billion apps, I forget, get made every single year. So when I talk to parents, they often want to know what are the worst apps to keep my kids off of. And I can show them a list, but then I quickly say it's going to be outdated in a couple of months because stuff is always changing. So it's important to keep up, and I think we're going to put some links on the screen for you of people to follow to kind of know what these emojis and slang means. Once again, it's important. If we don't know it, then we're never going to be able to protect our kids. So again, there's one expert who says if your kid is on an app, you also need to be on that app. Maybe not necessarily to monitor every move they make, but you have to know what it's capable of.
Yeah, you need to understand.
Am I able to talk to strangers on this app? If I am, that means strangers are able to talk to my kid when they're on that app. So you have to be knowing. If you're too busy to do that, then the easiest thing is to keep your kid off of it as well.
100%. And I think, is there something that might shock parents with regards to the age groups? I mean, I would think this is just teenagers, right?
No. So I've been to schools, and I was shocked one time when I asked fourth graders, how many of you guys have a phone? And it was everyone raised their hand. I said, how many of you guys are on social media? And over half. And that's 10-year-olds, right? And again, kids are different. The anxious generation, the guy I referenced earlier, who does a lot of social psychology, he recommends the earliest for a phone at 14 and social media at 16. And 14 for a phone doesn't mean a smartphone, right? There's dumb phones. They still make those. I also get a lot of questions about, well, will my child be behind in getting a job one day or getting into university if they don't start learning tech at a super young age? And if your kid is learning, let's say AI, for example, if a kid learns it at 15 or 16, he's going to be just fine, as opposed to a kid who's learning it at 8, for several reasons. One is the damage that can be done in those years, I think, are far too great of a risk for me to say, I'm going to give him an upper hand on education or whatever. Also, it's going to change so much. AI is changing all the time. So I think there's too much damage that can be done. Delaying it, you're not going to delay it forever, I get that. But there's just too much research that talks about how delaying it is better. There's just too much trouble they can get into.
So limiting as much as possible. And I read an interesting statistic the other day, is that by the age of 5, particularly girls, become self-conscious. That's when they start realizing, okay, I'm sure they're learning about social norms, but now they're becoming self-conscious, and now you've got a bunch of 5-year-olds that want to put filters on things.
And why is that? Why was that not true? We got to ask ourselves, why was that not true for us? And it's because of tech.
Yes.
It's because maybe their parents are watching too much and they're on it. They know about the filters. There's a statistic out there that says by the age of 10, 60% of kids have seen a pornographic image. Wow. Most of it is accidental, right? They're misspelling a word. They clicked on an advert. A lot of it can be innocent at first. But the porn industry has backdoor apps and everything. They are just waiting on that wrong click, and it comes up. I've had so many parents talk to me about, they think their kid is very innocent and sheltered and was Googling maybe armpit hair. Something very innocent that the kid was going through. And after 2 clicks, they're looking at porn. So, yeah.
And like you know, a lot of what I'm hearing is consumption. So we are consuming so much information on a day-to-day basis, and we're not able to decipher between what is real and what is not.
Yeah.
So if we as parents are not educating our kids on what is real and what is not, if they're seeing this on social media.
And I'm so glad you brought up the education, because kids are going to learn it from somewhere rather than learn it from you. When I heard that stat I just spoke about, by age 10, my kids were 9 at the time, and that afternoon I spoke to them about porn. I thought, right, let's have a conversation. Now, talking to a kid about a pornographic image at 9 is going to be different than talking to him at 16. But you can still talk to them about it. When they're real small, you can just say, hey, it's not okay for you to see a nude image of anybody, for anybody to take an image of you or to show you anything of themselves. Like, that's not okay. You can start as simple as that. But when they hear it from you, they're just more likely to come back to you with questions. You know, when I was growing up, parents kind of really tiptoed around how to talk about sex, right? And it was always like, oh, if your parents called you in and set you down on the couch, you're about to have the talk, right? So what I've learned and what we've done is we talk about it in the car. I bring it up in a not serious, formal thing. And now my kids will ask me something as we're driving down the road. And sometimes my husband, you know, just gasps because he has no idea that they have that freedom. Yeah. But it's not a big deal. And they can ask me about it. And it's not, I've removed the stigma. Yeah. I removed the big deal. And now they'll just come and say all sorts of things to me about their body, or they'll ask questions, or they'll say so-and-so said this. And it's not, there's no shame around it. Yeah. The knowledge.
So sex itself is a big deal, and they understand that. They just don't think talking about it is a big deal. And I think we can apply that to all topics.
Yes.
Pornography, even for the girls. I see there's a huge boom in pornography viewers of being women.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's us. If we don't know and we're not educated, how are we the ones educating our kids?
Yeah, I don't think it's too early to talk to kids about topics like that. You just talk to them about it differently. Okay, so you really simplify it for the young ones.
I'm a parent, and my girls are 5 and under. My 5-year-old, as I said, she's learning about social norms. What is the first thing I should start talking to her about? So my thinking is I'm going to educate her about her body, her private parts, what their real names are.
Yes.
So that she can identify them. So I'm not using, you know, butterfly.
Right.
I'm using the hard name. And I think parents are so scared. I actually want parents to go and stand in the mirror and say it over and over. I can't even say it right now. You know.
But that's a great first step. And yeah, you know, when I talk to primary kids, I do a lot of anti-trafficking talks and grooming talks in high school. And then someone will come to me and says, yeah, but can you do this to primary kids? And I said, yeah, I just do it very differently. You know, we'll play some more games. I'll tell them that they are allowed to say no to an adult. Culturally, that is not a thing that comes up here a lot. You know, being American, we're not known for politeness. We're known for being pretty blunt and rude. And my kids have really shocked some adults when they won't greet them back. But that is what I've taught them. But I say you can say no to an adult when it comes to your body. Yeah. I tell them that no adult should ever tell them a secret.
There's no bad secret. Like, you don't. There's no secret that's a good secret.
Yeah, I mean, your kids, you know, if you want to hide what you're getting your friend for the birthday present, you've got a secret with another friend, that's different. But no adult should ask a kid to keep a secret. I talk to them about, you know, their bathing costume. No one should see. Take a picture, take a photo, show you anything underneath that kind of stuff. So we just talk about it differently. And like I did with Wayne, you know, if you can't physically touch your friend, give him a fist bump, then you're not your friend. So that's what I focus on for the little ones. And then when they start getting middle school, high school, then we start having conversations about grooming, sextortion, and we go into that stuff.
That's amazing. And I think that's something I really need to consider, you know, as my daughter's now going into bigger schools. She's going to be exposed to a lot more. And that will expose then my younger children. Yeah. So we always forget that some of those kids have older siblings, and that's how, oh my word, my little innocent angel's now been exposed to this. And I don't think we should shy away from it. If it happens, it happens. There is no, I think we all say, oh, but they're only 6 or they're only 5 or they're only 4. No, it can happen at any point. So what is the biggest misconception that parents, caregivers, schools, sleepovers, anything in a supervision state that they have. What is the misconception?
It'll never happen to us. It's just that belief,
Yes.
right? Or I know that family. So let's talk about sleepovers for a second. I try to have as many of those at my own house. Play dates, I want to be the house that the kids want to come to. So we have things like a ping pong table and just different activities. We've got a really nice tree house and just stuff that's I want the kids to have fun there because then I know what's happening. So I'm going to know the family really well before I let them go over. But the other thing you must remember, if your daughter's going over to sleep over with daughter, does that other child have an older brother? Is that older brother going to have friends over at the same time? Okay? Is the mom dating somebody in a new relationship that might be over? You need to understand the whole scenario. Don't be afraid to ask the question, who is going to be at the house at any given time while my child is there? All right? You also need to give your kid a way out. So,
is that giving them a phone?
No. They can go to the adult they're with. So this didn't exactly happen, but this started to happen. My kid needed to talk to me. She asked the mother, hey, can I call my mom? Okay? So I called her. She told me a little something she was upset about, and we worked it out. But let's say you have a code with your child that says, they're having a sleepover, and just say, hey, text me from the mom's phone before you go to bed. I want to talk to you, okay? That shouldn't be a problem. If a mom doesn't want you to do that, then that's a problem. So they don't have a phone, but they might say, good night, I love you. All right? Now, if you tell your child, hey, look, if you're having a bad time or something happens, you just tell me, good night, I love you very, very much.
Oh, like a keyword.
Put a keyword in there, put a code phrase that no one's going to know, and then I'm coming to get you. Yeah. I'll make up an excuse. I'll put it on us. We have an emergency. We have something, and I will come get you. Make them feel safe. With transport, I'm not going to let my kid go in someone's car I don't know. But let's say they don't know who's picking them up from school that day. All right? And if they feel safe with every adult they've ever met, which they shouldn't, but that happens, again, this culture is too polite sometimes in South Africa. And they have a friend acquaintance and they come pick them up from school and they hop in the car with them because they know them. But doesn't mean that, 93% of victims of sexual abuse under 18 know their perpetrators. Okay, 93. So they're acquaintances that's doing stuff like this. But do the same thing. Give them a code word. Finish this phrase. So we have a family phrase, and I'll start it. And my kids know that if someone else, this hasn't happened yet, but if I were to have someone else pick them up, that person will finish that phrase. See what I'm saying? Yeah. So no one else is going to do it. So even if they know the person, but that person can't finish the phrase, they know that was not sent by mom or dad. I can't go home from this sport activity with this person right now.
That's a really great way of getting them not to feel like they're going to get in trouble. Because I think that's what it stems down to, is they think they're going to be in trouble if they don't just go along with it. Get in the car, have the sweet.
Yeah, so I've talked to, one time I was visiting a school, and, like I said, everyone's very polite. So I was big campus, I was a little lost. I just asked somebody, a student walking by, I said, hey, I need to get to the office. And of course he, said ma'am to me 10 times like he's supposed to, greeted me, walked me to the office. So then later we're in this conversation. I've got hundreds of kids before me, I'm talking in this high school. And I bring this up and I say, that was great. You guys were polite to me as a guest. You showed me in the office. Now, what if I'd asked you to carry something to my car? Would you have done it? I said, yes. What if I would have asked you to show me directions? I'm lost. I'm trying to get to someplace. Would you have gotten in my car and gone with me? Do you know when to stop? These are high schoolers. And they all said no. We don't know. They're ingrained such politeness and such reverence and respect to elders and adults, which, again, is very good. But they have to know when to stop. And they told me themselves they don't know.
Wow. Let that sit for a second. I was just reflecting on my own daughter, my oldest, and I think she would be overly polite and get in the car. If I tested it now and said, go in and say, hey, Stella, I know your mom, she'd get in the car.
Yeah. And test it. Develop this code word and then have a friend of yours go pick them up.
Yeah.
and see if they get in. Like, everyone's in on it. It's a very safe environment, but see if your kid's going to actually do it or not. It's a great practice.
That's a great challenge. And the other thing is, so, we talk about the reporting side. We see a lot of, TikToks. And now if you've got somebody doing supervision with your child, somebody that's a caretaker, and they are doing videos in your house with your kids around, is that exposing them? Is that something we need to have maybe discussions like, okay, I don't think Granny would be on TikTok, but maybe your domestic worker.
Right.
And she doesn't see any harm in it. It's during her lunch hour. She's not breaking any rules.
Right.
So are these things that you have discussions with your domestics?
At the very beginning.
Your nannies, your au pairs?
At the very beginning.
What do you say?
Friends, I said, look, my kids are not allowed on your phone for any games, because sometimes my kids have learned that we don't have any games on my phone, but they learn that other adults have. Yeah. And they'll be like, innocent little games, Candy Crush or something like that, very old games. But they know other adults do, or their friends, so they might ask. But at the very beginning, I said, look, they're not allowed on anybody else's phone. Please don't shoot a video. You want to shoot a video in the garden of yourself, go for it. My kids cannot be in any of that. So you have to have these conversations up front.
And that's amazing, because I don't think we actually really understand how the digital footprint works. And if you look at AR, it can scan a child's face and pick up anywhere on the internet that child's face appears, and you can click on those links. It might take you to direct profiles, and that we don't understand that. No. I don't understand that. It's not something I grew up with. I mean, we wanted to make a phone call to our parents. We used a Tiki box or a reverse call. Right.
No. I mean, the it's being created as we're living it. Right. That's why it's so hard on our parent generation right now. Because we don't know the defenses. It's like the seatbelt. When cars first came out, they didn't have a seatbelt. Okay, it took a good 20 years at least for them to realize this is killing a lot of people. We ought to make a seatbelt law. Same thing with tobacco. Okay, when the tobacco industry really started booming, I mean, tobacco's been around for a long, long time. But when it really started booming, it was again about 20 years before they really started putting labels on stuff and really started saying this is harmful. Okay. We are just about now 20 years out from social media, boom, and all that stuff. So now we're learning. However, it's hard to pull back digitally. It's not just putting a seatbelt in a car. It's harder now. But this is the problem we're facing. People are realizing this is harmful. There are some things we need to do, but catching up is very difficult.
But don't you think that perhaps the children today are catching up? Where, like you said, tobacco, they sort of like, it's not cool to smoke anymore, cigarettes. It's not cool to even drink, So can we do you think there's a world that we can reverse a little bit of the social media? Maybe we can have influencers influencing against, not having no Sunday screen time, or...
I think absolutely. You need leaders. Well, it does start with us, because we're the example in front of our kids every day. But Australia just passed a law that you have to be 16 before you can have social media. Okay. Wow. Now, a lot of people are like, oh, that'll never work. But it's like setting a limit for alcohol. Yes, are kids going to drink before they're allowed to have alcohol? Some are. Is it going to keep some from not? Yeah, it is. Okay, and in setting that limit, what that did in Australia, all of a sudden it made parents realize, now parents are responsible too, right? And it's putting the responsibility on the parents and saying, they're like, oh, maybe this is a bad thing. If there's now a law against it, and so I'm curious to see how Australia develops in all this and what other countries are going to follow in their footsteps.
And I want to just touch on that before we get into the resources that are available for parents, but just touching on that responsibility. We can't, like you said, the prefrontal cortex hasn't developed in these children that are using these devices. So if your child is engaging in online bullying or sextortion, or, even if they're just going along with a child that's videoed another child being beaten up at the school, what is our laws? Can parents be prosecuted?
Yes, especially when they're on your account and they're your phones. A kid doesn't have their own account, right? So you can be CSAM, which is child sexual abuse material. It's kind of a newer word we're using instead of child porn now. Fastest growing crime in the world, okay? Because it's digital and it's hard to stop. But when that's found on your kid's phone, it's your account phone, you can be charged, and the child can be charged. We've got kids who think, oh, I'm just sending a booby pic to another kid my age. What's the harm? But there's immense harm, and it's illegal.
So there is going to be a responsibility, and we can expect to see a lot more cases going through where parents are going to be like, I didn't know they had a phone, and what was I supposed to do?
And that's the point. If you don't want to know, or if you don't have time to know or time to monitor, then don't give it to them.
100%.
Because it falls back on you.
So I think what we need to cover is what are the resources, and perhaps I can call Wayne back to discuss this, but what are the resources that are available that we can offer our parents now, particularly that are in, our closer regions, that they can, we discussed the lingo, the emojis, the slangs. I mean, this will always develop and always change, but if parents are talking about it, if the schools know about it, because I think the teacher will probably pick up on the dynamics amongst the kids quicker maybe than you do.
For sure.
So if we're all on the same page, we can say, listen, we need to keep an eye on Johnny because we're seeing some behavior. So should we talk about before, what are the warning signs that maybe the schools need to flag down? Where do they draw the line?
Yeah. So the biggest warning sign, and Wayne mentioned earlier when we were talking, is that change of behavior. He mentioned it in that girl, that the not eating, the not socializing. If your child was an extrovert and all of a sudden is not an introvert, okay, maybe that's being a teenager, but maybe it's something else. Yeah. They were very involved in sport and now they don't want to go to sport anymore. Any change like that should be a big warning sign. And you're right, parents and teachers, a lot of it is just uneducation. And if schools feel the pressure to keep up with tech so they can maybe get more students or funding or whatever, but that doesn't mean it's the right way to go. And if they really understood the risks, I think they can rework some tech policies. Like I said, there's a ton of schools. America's a little bit of ahead because America has been in it longer. Okay, I'm not saying it's better, but they've been dealing with tech because that's where it was created.
We can use it as like a benchmark.
So a lot of schools there are now going phoneless. Yes. Okay, you go into school, you put it. If you have it with you in school, you put it in a box, and I think that is brilliant. And I'm hoping more and more schools here will understand the importance of that.
And is it necessary for the teachers to have phones in the classes?
I don't think so.
Does it have an impact on the students?
Yes, I mean, sure. If they see it, why do they get it and I don't? Right? It's just like the parent thing. Why does mom get to sit there scrolling the phone, and she says I can't have a phone till I'm 14, 15?
Okay, so it's resources, it's about, as we also need to look at policy,
and you got to be that example. You got to enforce it
share
for everybody.
Policy. Okay, and then I'm assuming another resource would be understanding certain children's acts that we aren't aware of. We don't realize it's a crime. I think if I went up to somebody and said, at what age can a child be prosecuted?
You'd probably be shocked at the answer.
I mean, do I know what the answer is?
I'll let Wayne answer those questions, policy questions.
Well, then I think let's hand over to Wayne van Onselen and let's get some further resources. So I'm sitting with Wayne now, and we're going to go over safeguarding policy and resources that are there for teachers, parents, and any caregiver of children. What I'd like parents to take away from this, or anyone watching this today, is you don't need a perfect parent. You just need an aware one. Wayne, what is the one parting thing that you would want parents or anyone watching this today to take home?
I always advocate, if you see something, say something.
To who?
Unchain Our Children is there. We work very closely with very specialized law enforcement units within the South African police, with other professional people, attorneys, advocates, you name it. It's literally the village people. It takes a village to rear a child, and it takes a village to keep that child safe as well. So there are inundated resources that we have to our disposal. Just reach out. There will be help, and there is help. We can help you.
So do I just tag Unchain Our Children and we'll get a response, or do I have to reach is there a specific channel I need to go through in order to get assistance?
No, you can contact us directly via Facebook, via Twitter, all the other social media platforms. My cell phone number is readily available on these platforms, or Nikki, my social worker, and I think in some instances even Amy is available. With the talks and stuff that she does at school, she shares her information. So we're not a secretive organization. We're out there in your face to protect children.
And tell me something about people that are fighting the darkness, the ones that don't want you to shine a light where there's darkness. How are you managing that? How are you actually exposing these people that are the predators, that are the risks to our children? What are you doing, and what is government or other enforcement doing to support that and assist you on those matters?
I'm not here to slag anybody. I think everybody is really trying their best to keep our children safe. A lot of people say the system is failing the children. It's not the system, it's the people working in the system. So I think a gift that Unchain Our Children has developed over the years that we are in existence. This year we turn 10. And it's working with the right people, working with the people who share our vision, who share our vigor to keep the children safe, to act in the best interest of a child. So our network is vast, and we will leave no stone unturned to keep a child safe.
When you say vast, just to give an idea to the people, how big is this network? How far does it reach?
Well, worldwide. I have law enforcement contacts, friends, social workers all over the world. I mean, look at Amy. Amy comes from the States. Amy has got a network of her own that she shares within Unchain. We work with most of the embassies in South Africa when it comes to foreign law enforcement with cases that stem from other countries that are being perpetrated in our country. So, how vast do you want it to be?
Yeah. So if there were 3 laws, maybe with more pertaining to Children's Act, that you want parents to know that you think they might not know, what would your top 3 be?
I think, pertaining to child protection specifically, a child in need of care and protection, that's quite a vast field. But I think the responsibility there lies very deeply with the parent. You have rights as a parent to protect your child, and your children also have rights that you are there to protect them. I think that's the most important, if I could highlight one. Your child does have rights. In most instances, they supersede your rights as a parent when it comes to the protection of your child. You must take note of that. The courts will ask you many questions, and one of the most important will be, what did you do to protect your child? Callyn, another law that I think is also very important is the age of the criminality, where a child is reckoned to be criminally accountable in our judicial system, where they would be charged for their criminality. And it is deemed to be at the age of 12, yet there's lots of tests and debate about that, the maturity of the child, etc., the seriousness of the crime that was committed. But yeah, from the age of 14, children who are in conflict with the law, it's hardcore. You don't want to go down that road with a child, because the child has not been taught consequences for their actions and responsibilities and things like that. I think adults, parents, need to be very aware of that.
So they will be tried as an adult.
No, they'll be tried as a child. They'll be tried as a child. But the consequences are very similar to that of an adult. Obviously not the harsh sentences, but also depending on the crime, whether the child will be sentenced after they are 18, when it comes to murder and your capital crimes. There are various tests, as I said, about that, but let's avoid that at all costs.
And will the parents be accountable?
No, the parents could not be held accountable, but I mean, the parents are responsible in a certain degree to what the child has done, because the child has been given free rein, not having consequences for their actions, not being made aware of the rights and wrongs, of norm. And then further, when it comes to CSAM, when young children are distributing images amongst themselves, that is a crime on its own. So the possession, the manufacturing, and the distribution of CSAM, of child sexual abuse material, it's a crime.
So if I'm a child and I've sent a nude, am I then...
You can be held criminally accountable, and in that instant, your parents can be charged because they are the legal owner of that device.
I think that's something a lot of people aren't aware of.
No, they're not. They just shy away from it.
And if you are a teacher, where does the obligation come in to report?
In the children's laws and the Children's Act, there's very specific people who are mentioned, who are mandated by law to report via the various reporting channels, be it a Form 22 when it comes to teachers, that have to report the misconduct to social development, to the Department of Education. That is mandatory. So should you not report, you make yourself guilty of the same offense that you are not reporting on. And people need to realize that. They shy away from it, but when it comes to show and tell and you're in court, you're going to have to explain why you did not report.
Yes, so they say, well, it's not my child, or I don't want to get involved, or, I'm not one to ruffle the boat or rock the boat. There is a very clear line as to you will be held accountable if you don't say something to someone, even if you're not sure who to go to. You've got to at least say that you've spoken to someone.
Yeah, you'd have to show as a reasonable person, what did you do to try and protect that child?
Okay.
Because it's not your child, your responsibility doesn't end there. You are a teacher, and I'm not picking on teachers, but there are specific people who are mandated, police officials, social workers, doctors, there's a whole list of them,
Yes.
Educators. You have to, by law, you are mandated to report that.
It's not personal, it's protection.
Nothing personal is protection.
So thank you so much for coming through, and thank you for sitting with Amy and myself and going over. Child Protection Week starts this Friday, and I know that same with gender-based violence. For some reason, we see a lot of cases that come out in that week. I don't know if it's because it's, there's a light on it for a week that people are like, oh, child protection. But we do then start hearing a lot more cases, and I'm sure you would maybe counter that and say the cases are the same. It's just people are talking about it, or what do you think it is?
I just think people feel obliged to talk about it because the topic is
we should feel obliged to talk about
the flavor of the month, something to talk about. But it should never be that. Also, the term gender-based violence, I think, is used very loosely. Violence is violence. Abuse against children is abuse against children. It's no specific age group, no specific sex, religious group, denomination. It's against the child. And we are the gatekeepers, and we as adults need to protect our children because they are the future of our country and of the world.
Yeah, and exactly, the safeguarding tomorrow's leaders.
Exactly.
So, as Amy said, if I can't fist pump you, then I don't know you. So, well done to Unchain Our Children, and thanks for joining us. Hi, it's Callyn from Heart of Stella Foundation, and if you found today's resources helpful or that you feel that maybe you could use them, please check our link in our bio or check under the comment section for more information.